Welcome to this week's episode of FRR Recap. This week, both of our tiers drivers tackled the Autodromo Los Carlos pace, better known as Interlagos. The circuit covers 4.309 kilometers or 2.677 miles. The circuit is located in Sao Paulo and is one of the longest standing tracks in Formula One. The track has hosted some wonderful end of season races on top of any race at Brazil is normally a must watch. Especially this year, we've seen this generation of cars are very good for overtaking at Brazil, a lot better than the last generation of cars. It seems to be able to stay closer together through some of the twisty bits of the track, especially the middle sector. So this week, both tiers went around Autodromo Los Carlos pace, which has 18 turns, a lot of undulating turns as well, up, down, a fair amount of what can be difficult traction zones for some people. There's a fair amount of high-speed corners as well, and obviously that insanely long back straight across the start-finish line. It's really easy to get a toe up there and just absolutely send it into turn one, but then some people end up losing it through the center S's. It's a very fun track, and that's why we held our first sprint race of the season there. Tier 1 had quite an interesting race. There was a bit of wet. It was just overall interesting. I'm going to hand you over to Silent Pistol, who's going to run you through this week's Tier 1 Brazil sprint race.
Thank you very much, Moser. So, in qualifying, we saw Tropical finishing P1 in quali, showing his beautiful racing pace around another track once again. Roger had a strong session also in that AlphaTauri. It was my first time seeing him qualify, and he did a brilliant job. Stocky getting overqualified at the last second to get underwhelming for him, P3. Then we went on to the sprint race. Weeksy was darting down on the inside to gain 2 positions at the very, very start. He went from P4 up into P2. Also, there was a safety car. I believe it was something to do with Chris Towns retiring or getting crashed out. And also there was a big incident involving James Calaco, Shaq, and Roger. Tropical was also overtaken after he left accidentally. He went from P1 over to P2, and Weeksy finally won that sprint race at the end of it. In the Grand Prix, Tropical crashed himself out at the very, very start. It was a very unfortunate position for him, but from that crash, we got another safety car. We had it out, and it was for quite a while. We had another safety car because Ragnar crashed himself out, and Weeksy was not pitting on the Inters despite the wet, and we could see it take a toll on him in the race. Stocky made contact with Brad, leading him to go off track also. I think it was into the first turn. Bit of contact, and he went wide. Weeksy dropped down to 5th because he still had those slicks on despite the wet weather. Razagamer HD tried to claim P1, and Stocky was battling as well. Razagamer HD, though, got contact, and he unfortunately span. There was a safety car later on in the race, and Chris Towns was not pitting under safety car, and therefore he did lead the race going into the next part. Brad and Hungry Throne collide on the restart of a safety car, and Brad breaks front wing by hitting into the wall, and Brad gets a time penalty for this, so it might have been his fault, but we're not too sure. In the safety car, we had another safety car, and during that safety car, it turned sunny, and therefore people had to pit again, and Chris Towns could not adjust, and he span into the wall, and he crashed out. Henkaz was also pushed wide by Crazy Griefer into the first turn, and finally at the end of the race, AMS Roger out of nowhere in the AlphaTauri was able to claim the victory.
Right. Wow, sorry, that was when I said quick, I wasn't expecting 3-minute recap for the whole Tier 1 weekend. That was absolutely brilliant. Good on you. You've got a lot of info in that 3 minutes. So now we're going to head into a wonderful interview with your Circuit de Barcelona Catalunya race winner for Tier 2, ex-Joshi IC. Right, so this week we have ex Joshy C, your Tier 2 Spain winner. He's kindly given the time to do an interview, so unless you'd like to say anything, we'll just get straight on with the questions.
Let's go.
So
All right.
most of the questions are on a similar sort of line. You know, they're all not necessarily generic questions, but they come on the same train of thought. It's what happens when you try and think of questions ahead of time. But they should provide some slightly different answers. So we'll just go straight away. How does it feel to get your maiden win in FRR around a track that I think you did all right last season, but it isn't necessarily your best track?
It's quite nice because I did not want to have like any struggles, which I normally would around Spain. So it just sort of gave me that boost to take it home.
Yeah, well, it's a well deserved win. It's been a long time coming. You know, we've been teammates for about the last 2.5 seasons. It's been. I think you've definitely helped me develop as a driver. You've helped me get that little bit quicker. I'm still not on your level. Watch your back. Hopefully one day. But
I will see.
we'll see. I mean, with the pace you had at Spain, maybe not. You've suddenly found a good pocket. Let's just see. Yeah. So, but based on that, what did you do to get the sudden surge of pace you had? You had a massive surge at the end of last season, and then this season it's just sort of carried on.
I just sort of started practicing quite a lot. Lowered some assists. Made some changes with like setups. I started creating my own setups, and it just sort of suited me better than using other people's, which sort of helped me.
Yeah, it seems to be something that when people start to change that or they move over to wheel, they seem to get a bit of a surge. How do you look back on last season's performances? You know, you missed quite a few rounds last season, but in those rounds that you did participate in, you had some solid performances. So how do you look back on them?
I wasn't really like very happy with last season. I made quite a few errors. I spun quite a lot, and I did like to reset the track quite a lot.
Just a little bit.
I've changed quite a lot, and I'm quite happy that I have.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, it's nice that you've stopped resetting to track because it doesn't mean you're going to get qualifying bans. I mean, you obviously had a race ban for the first. Well, you had so many penalty points that you had a race ban for the first round of the season. But yeah, hopefully not as many. I think across last season it probably tallies. I don't know, a good. I think it's a good 10, if not more. There were a lot of reset to track
I'd
bans.
say more, probably.
Yeah, there were quite a few. Funnily enough, a lot of them came from Spain. It definitely wasn't a good race for you last season, but luckily this season it was a good race. What are you? So, like I say, obviously last season you missed quite a few rounds. As you said yourself, you span quite a lot. It wasn't your best performances. I think you finished. Definitely finished above me last season. I'm just gonna check.
I think I was around 8th or 9th in the championship last season.
No, you were even higher. So I was 8th in the championship. God. Somehow I got 56 points. I don't think I'm going to get that this season. And you were you were 4th. You were 87 points. You were ahead of the field. You know, apart from the top 3, you know, you had Merritt 215, Tomlock 180, and Rango with 125. You were 3 points ahead of your next closest rival. You know, 4th in the championship. What do you reckon your chances are for this season for doing the same or maybe better?
So I'd probably strive to maybe get 3rd. I don't think I'm up at the same level as Merritt and Tom, as they have just got insane pace. So we'll see what happens, I guess.
Well, I mean, you're currently 4th again, so that's not, and you've got quite a gap. You've got a 5-point gap to Wekaz. You know, Wekaz seems to get a little bit unlucky in the races. Seems to qualify well, but can't hold it together over the whole 50%. So, and then you've got a massive gap to your next closest rival. You've got like a good 14-point gap. So I think you could definitely be on for a fourth, maybe even. I mean, third at the minute is only 2 points ahead of you, so that's good.
Only hope.
Yeah, that's it. Well, I mean, we're definitely not going to get the constructors. And we did quite well last season, I will say. We got, was it fourth in the end or third?
I think it might have been fourth.
Yeah, it was fourth in the end. 142 points. That's still quite good. I mean, it's the best that I've ever done in the championship. But of course, 80 of them were yours. But anyway, that's because I got lucky with a podium in Miami. In your opinion, what does it take to compete at the top of, you've been at the top of tier 2 for or thereabouts for quite a while, but what do you think it takes to compete at the top of tier 2?
It's just, in my opinion, composure and like the ability to just keep your head down and keep going back up if you get spun or if you spin.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely one thing. I think it was Weeksy last week. Was it? I think it was Weeksy. Said the pretty much same about tier 1. If you can just keep it in a straight line or keep going, you tend to do quite well because, especially around a track like Spain, you have a fair few amount of people spin. So if you can just keep it going, you can quite often overtake people that way. So that's definitely a good answer. So you did well in the last generation of cars. I think you got. I can't remember if you got any podiums 2 seasons back or not, but I remember you definitely had a good pace. Getting some good points. What was it like for you to get used to both the new game and the new generation of cars, but still stay as quick as you are?
Absolutely horrible. At first, I had absolutely no pace for the first solid month of playing the new game.
I was going to say, I think I out qualified you at Australia last season.
Yeah.
First and only time.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's just sort of only came back to me, like my pace really. It took a lot of just practicing to get back to where I was compared to the last game.
Yeah, I mean it was a big change. Obviously, the handling characteristics are completely different. I mean, lately I've jumped back onto F1 21 in between races just for a bit of fun, and I can actually keep the 21 car in a straight line, which was quite surprising. You would have thought, especially with the big changes, once you get used to one, you can't really drive the other. But I think we should go back to the old generation of cars. They look nicer as well.
Yeah, 100%.
But based on that, which generation of car did you prefer to drive? I'm guessing you've only driven this generation and last generation. I don't know. You might have driven like the 2017 and earlier cars, which of course are once again completely different.
My favourites was easily last year's. They were just perfect for me.
Yeah, I mean they were lovely cars unless you were following somebody or unless you had to. What one turn that I remember I always hated. Well, I hate the track itself, but Bahrain turn 11. If you take if you catch that inside curb, you're round. Whereas this season you can ride pretty much any curb within reason, and you'll be fine within reason. Watch me. I'm definitely going to find the curbs that you can't. You might see me backwards a few times, but yeah, these cars are definitely better to drive. There's definitely more grip as well. I've found through some of the more medium speed corners, you can carry that little bit more speed, and there seems to be the cars seem to prefer to turn in more. So this is a question from Brad. How tough did you find last season?
Oh, it was dreadful for me, to be honest. I just struggled and struggled. But coming towards the end, I momentarily switched the wheel, and that sort of gave me a bit of a speed boost. I found it quite easy on wheel. but now I'm back to controller.
Oh, what's
So
up?
I have to
What's
go
up
through
with
that
your wheel?
struggle again.
What's up with your wheel?
It wasn't the wheel. It was my Xbox. It's too old. It can't handle the wheel anymore.
That's a shame. He's still on old gen then, Xbox One.
Yeah.
Oh. I mean, if you ever get round to upgrading, definitely go with the X, not the S. So I've got the S, and that was my biggest mistake because I can only hold about 4 games.
What?
Yeah, well, games are so big; they're like 100 gig now. I mean, F121 is 80 gig on Xbox. That's nuts.
Right.
It's crazy. But like the Series S, you get 500 gigabytes of storage, but half of that's used for the operating system. So you actually only get 250. So by the time you've got a game or two, you've already got like 30 gig left. So and unless you want to have a hard drive permanently plugged into your Xbox, I'd definitely go for the X.
Yeah, I've got that now.
Yeah, that's what I've had to invest in because I can't play my games otherwise. Yeah, if you do upgrade, I'd definitely say the X. I mean, they're more readily available now, which is good. When I got mine, the X wasn't actually available, so good. I don't know if I've got any more questions. I'm just having a look through. I love being able to edit this stuff out because it means that I can chat shit. Right. So the only other question I've got for you today then is, do you have any other hobbies outside of league racing?
I like to just sort of ride my bike around with my friends. Sometimes I do a bit of karting, but only rental karting. I don't have the money to have my own. Hopefully, see you next week.
Yeah, I'll be racing next week. What track is it?
Good stuff.
Brazil.
Oh God.
Brazil, fuck's sake.
Oh no.
That was not a good track for me last season.
Neither.
And it's a sprint. So that marks the end of the interview. It's been absolutely brilliant having you on. Hopefully we can, who knows, maybe next week you at Brazil. I know Brazil isn't the best track for either of us, but hopefully, maybe a podium for you, maybe a top 5 finish, keep them points rolling in, and hopefully I can find some pace towards the end of the season. We might get a decent constructors bidding. I mean, not for the title, obviously, but maybe for top 4 again. So this week, Tier 2 also went around Autodromo Jos Carlos pace. We had very interesting qualifying, a very interesting sprint, and a very interesting main race. There were a lot of mix-ups up and down the grid in all 3 sessions. Some unsurprising, some maybe not surprising at all. Sorry, some unsurprising, some that were very surprising. All in all, a brilliant weekend from Tier 2. I'm going to let Adam Foran take you through the weekend.
Do you vibe gets pole in qualifying? Not much talk about very solid qualifying from all the drivers, but Do You Vibe comes out on top of all the rest. Yeah, now as we head into the first sprint race of the calendar, to being a new thing, but at the start of the sprint, Tom Lock unfortunately crashed on lap 1. It was very unfortunate, but after that though, like the lap after, where the Red Bull teammates came together with a little scrap, not lasting long, but a good battle nonetheless. So yeah, Adam Foran with myself came out on top of that. Just saying. Do You Vibe spins after getting pole position, unfortunately. Yeah, very unfortunate from him. And then only a few laps later, he crashed on the main straight somehow. Don't know how that happened. Very unfortunate. And we've seen a very lovely battle though after that from Fixable and Wekaz, making sure I'm pronouncing that right. Very cheeky little scrap between them. Fortunately, I can't remember who came out on top, but nonetheless, both drivers there showed great awareness nonetheless. Later on, acid spins, which was unfortunate for him, and then the next topic actually involves him, which is a very controversial one in my opinion. But he broke Rule 1, and the McLaren teammates, from what we've seen on the stream anyways, crashed into the final corner, or what some people consider the final corner. A little mention, great race from Moser and myself, kind of biased if I include myself, but Moser had a great race nonetheless, starting from 14th, I believe, and finishing 7th or 6th. So great all out. Myself, yeah. Well, Fixable wins the sprint, getting himself pole position for the main race. As we go on to obviously the main race now. But yeah, as in the main race, do you vibe spins? This was like a little bit after, because I believe the first few laps were pretty boring. Yeah, but later on we had insane action with the safety car coming out after Do You Vibe spun, obviously. But then Merritt and Adam pit. Why do I keep saying Adam? Myself, a pit. Obviously, in my opinion, great tactical maneuver, but can't really say much on that. Merritt obviously was thinking the same way. Big single spins. Not much saying that, just he spun into Senna S's. Fortunate, I hate to bring this up, but my wheel died basically, and I lost all track for our podium. Yeah, that's pretty much all that happened. Obviously, another mention from Moser. Moser also had a pretty good, solid main race. Obviously, getting his way up to the pack, getting great points for Williams after his teammate didn't do the best results. But I'm also going to put in a good effort for myself. Even though I finished ninth, still put up a good effort. Yeah, and Tomac won the race, obviously, after a little incident in the sprint race after crashing out. He started from near the back of the grid to fight his way up for Alfa Romeo 1-2. That is just crazy. Anyway, this has been Tier 2 recap. I'll be moving on to what? I can't remember. Yay. Yeah, cut.
Right, I'll cut that bit as well because fucking we'll continue on because we don't need the outro bit yet.
Yeah, I didn't know what to do.
Because I'm just going to carry on because you missed some bits out. So I'm just going to. So I mean, you covered the main race quite quickly there, Adam. I mean, there was quite a few safety cars. Thank you very much for the nice mentions, even though that is incredibly biased. But no, we in all fairness, a lot of people had decent race, but Fixable included brilliant race, won the sprint, not so lucky in the main race. I think he span. If not got caught out by the safety car. I mean, me and you did quite well. I mean, after we came together a little bit in quali and both got a 5-place grid penalty, so shush. So the sprint race, I think we're 11th and 14th. I think somehow I managed to get past you into the first 10.
Yeah, but that was because I stuck to the white on the main race.
Oh, that's right. But yeah, and anyway, 11th and 14th. I mean, that was going to be a big job from the sprint, but we just kept it going when people span, so it actually helped to be further back. And then in the main race, obviously you dropped back to P9 and I dropped back to P13. I think P13.
I don't even know how we pulled it off on the sprint though.
I think overall we made good charges through the field. Starting further back is definitely the strat, unless you're going for the win. If you're going for sort of like good points, starting slightly further back is the strat. Where it's easy to spin because people do seem to spin.
I was on track for the win, but
the win maybe not. Podium definitely.
Podium, I was guaranteed at least the podium.
I think you were guaranteed at least a podium. It's right. I've got a clip on my Xbox of when I drive past you and I didn't realize you had crashed where you crashed. I thought you crashed on the main straight, but you crashed. You were so lucky not to DNF there. You sort of lost control. And hit.
I hit away. My wheel died even more after.
It hit
my controller.
Yeah, well, you hit the edge of the wall sideways going onto the main straight. So out of the final turn, your wheel just was like no, and you just sort of side skid into the
Oh yeah,
wall.
I know what happened. When I went to go down and try to reset my wheel, I dropped my controller. It unpaused it, and my left stick was like it pushed my left stick left. So when it unpaused, it just slapped the wheel like full lock left.
Yeah, well, that was silly,
Seeing
wasn't
it
it?
in the stream, it just looks so funny. But
It's right.
I did get points.
It is hilarious. Like I say, I just ended up driving past you, and I noticed when I was looking back through my clips earlier, I just see
Oh,
this Strucken Red Bull sideways, not even pointing at the track.
Yeah, I also forgot to mention my game died as well.
Stop giving excuses. In Silverstone, it was you had a Monaco set up. In Brazil, it's that your
This is not
game
even an
died.
excuse. I'm just saying I could have at least got P7. On track, I would have P7.
What did I get? I think was I P7 in the race. Me and RNG Merit. RNG. I kept
finished
RNG
P7,
Merit
but
behind for the last 5 laps. Don't know how I did that, but yeah, he literally out of the final turn he got past me because he had DRS. But that is
I was
every
still doing it.
shh, that is everything for tier 2 this week, and with that also marks the end of the episode. It's brilliant to have the full team back together to produce what is hopefully a longer episode. You know, it's nice to have everybody back. It's been an exciting week with the first sprint race of the season. Make sure you tune in next week for the race around Suzuka, which is going to be our last race for 2 weeks. With our mid-season break this season is round 5, so we've got 5 rounds, and then we have 7 rounds after the break until the new. So we're going on a 2-week break to the new year. So next week will possibly be our last episode until then. We might do a little episode in between, but
Christmas special?
maybe a Christmas special. Well,
Not on Christmas.
there's going to be a special interview from hopefully, if we can get it sorted, a special interview from I can't think of his name now. Sada 77. Somebody that's been part of this league for absolutely ages. A lot of people that have been in the league for ages know him and love him. Unfortunately, he's unable to race with us at the moment. He's just really busy with work. But I think we're gonna maybe try and get a special interview in over Christmas with him. Do a little Christmas episode, a little Christmas special. But that's it for this week. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for our round 5 episode for Suzuka.